Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming out on this vivacious morning. Don't we have an interesting spring that goes on and on? I like it. So I have an almond tree that someone gave me that I planted a number of years ago at my place. And generally speaking, almond trees don't grow here. It's like Sacramento area, California. They have these beautiful pink iridescent blossoms. They're quite nice. And they put up suckers from the new growth, about 3 or 4 feet tall. So I can cut those and make 3 or 4 foot tall bouquets. And I gave one to my daughter. Well, I encourage you to wander about Eugene and appreciate the flowers. There's lots of them. The wild plums are starting to bloom. You can go over to, we have numerous parks, so wander in a park and just enjoy flowers, and that's good medicine for the rest of the species that are having difficulties. So we can do our little part in bringing some positive flower energy to our brothers and sisters. And we have flowers here, daffodils, wild cherries, or not, ornamental cherry blooming in the front that Sangha members planted 20 years ago. Lovely plum tree with white blossoms, magnolia tree starting to bloom that we put in last spring. So lots of flower energy, lots of gardens. So the title of today's talk, Spirits, Altars, Energy, the Dance of the Visible and Invisible. Spirits. Well, we invoke spirits a lot here. We make offerings at altars, during meal time. So those of you that are around here a bit, very familiar with spirits. So what do we make of that in a modern scientific society? That can't be quantified yet. And maybe that's a good thing. Yeah. And concerning altars, spirits, altars, and energy, we're establishing a new altar under the fig tree out here that I believe there's going to be a ceremony next Sunday when Hojo-san returns. So it's a new Earth Spirits altar. We already have about a dozen altars here. They're all over, inside, upstairs, outside, and we make offerings on a daily basis. Water, flowers, incense, fruit, and why would one do such a thing? And where does all that energy go? Is it visible? Is it invisible? Well, one of the beauties in Buddhism of making offerings is you're turning the wheel of being generous, right? Sometimes humans have a tendency not to be. So we acknowledge that and do this deep practice of making offerings. And many people do this in their own way, whether they're volunteering somewhere, they're making an offering with their energy and their time. That lots of that happens in society. They're not Buddhist, they're not necessarily Christian, but they feel connected that they want to do something and make an offering. So volunteer or give a gift and such. So that's a beautiful practice. So spirits, possibly related with the word spirituality. And then there's religion, which people say, wow, I'm not religious, but I kind of can relate with spirituality. Okay. And well, if you want to ground spirituality in one sense, there's many facets to it. Kindness is spirituality. Generosity is spirituality. Patience is spirituality. They're very real things that we practice, all of us practice on a daily basis. So that's spiritual medicine that's not ethereal at all. Not that that's not a bad thing, but we live and practice that in one way or another. Thank goodness that's what keeps societies going in a healthy way. Good vibes are spirituality. And we can all, so that's invisible, right? Vibrations are invisible. So we all sense those, So there's something that's invisible. Sometimes it becomes visible. It's a subtle energy, good vibrations. There's songs. The Beach Boys had a song, Good Vibrations. Right? Some people don't know. That's in the 60s. It's a good thing. So, yeah. So concerning spirits, I recalled as I was writing this, there was a recording, a vinyl album by Gil Scott-Heron. Maybe some people know that name. African-American artist, musician, spoken word from the 60s, 70s, 80s. And he came out with a recording in the 90s called Spirits. And he's invoking spirits. And he's going into his African roots and bringing that into the jazz, the blues, and it's quite a recording, so I listened to the whole thing. Stayed up to about 3 a.m. Yes, spoken word artists, civil rights activists.
Could you say his name again?
Gil Scott-Heron.
Okay.
He's possibly considered the godfather of rap. He did a spoken word. A very beautiful voice and music. New York City. So altars. That's a big part of our practice here. And some of you definitely have altars at your home, and if you don't, maybe consider some sort of an altar. I have 3. I clean them every Sunday, if I'm a good boy. And occasionally I am. But clean those. And it's a nice feeling. It's just a little space. And, you have a little offering of flowers, a little incense. Maybe there's a little sculpture. Maybe you have a goddess. Maybe you have an owl. Things that are meaningful, that invoke nature and spiritual qualities. So altars, our altar here, this is relatively new. That's someone local made from local wood, big leaf maple. Many of you know this tree. It's all around town. They're quite large. They're all over the Whitaker, and beautiful tree. So this is our relatively new altar. And you can see very symmetrical. Zen is very symmetrical. And not. As, our faces are symmetrical, so we make altars that are symmetrical. And, it's an extension of our being. So turning the wheel of generosity, the offerings, that is ongoing, deep practice. And that opens up, you're turning the wheel and opening up a gate, of generosity. We need to all practice that. And it's very lovely. Things open up that you don't expect. So this is our sutra book that we use here daily. And I wanted to read something, invoking the vow to awaken. The Buddha is an awakened being. That's what Buddha means. So, invoking the vow to awaken. And this is by Menzan, who lived in the 17th century. He's a Soto Zen Buddhist master and prolific writer. And this is, we do evening service here Monday through Friday, and this is from this section called the Ambrosia Gate, invoking the vow to awaken. Our hearts set on awakening, we offer this gift of pure food to you, hungry ghosts from every corner of the Dharma realm, from every country and land without number. You departed long ago. Gather here. Come, all you spirits, from earth gods of mountains and rivers to demons and wraiths of the barren wastes. Accept this food, given in love and compassion. We pray that each of you, in turn, offers this gift to all Buddhas, all holy ones, and sentient beings throughout space and time. May all be equally satisfied. May your bodies be nourished by this Dharani food, gain liberation, and leave suffering behind. What an amazing piece. What's going on? He's inviting demons. Now, do you invite demons to dinner? He's inviting wraiths, hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts are, in Buddhism, they're beings that are never satisfied. They have a narrow throat, and a bloated stomach, and they're constantly craving. And the reason we do this is humans have an element of this, and we want to put that in check and be aware of it and not let it dominate our lives. So it's quite a lovely piece. Many years ago, I was sitting in Sesshin, our meditation retreat, and I was just struggling to wow, which way do I turn, and why do I have to get up so early? There's no talking, and the bells are ringing. What's going on? And then we read this, and we're inviting hungry ghosts and demons and wraiths. I'm going, oh my goodness, where am I? And it's a beautiful piece because you're offering these beings that we're all related to, and you're giving them a gift of food offered in love, and then you're asking them that they would make the offering. So this is quite radical and quite a practice for humans. It's really amazing. So we do that every evening service. Right? The Ambrosia Gate. So spirits, altars, energy. Energy. I think a quote from the poet Gary Snyder, he said, energy is eternal delight. I mean, there's nuclear energy, there's solar energy. Energy. And prana is a Sanskrit word. People that practice yoga know prana. It has to do with breath, pranayama in the breath. So that's a form of energy, invisible energy, that we're all partaking of. And in yoga, they cultivate it very specifically. There's different asanas and breathing techniques, but we're all channeling that. It's in our nervous system, running through our veins and breath. And we have nice fresh air here sometimes when it's raining hard. Prana. Oh, speaking of flowers, so when I wandered into Oregon about 50 years ago, I was coming from Southern California with someone I met down there. We're going to go to Hood River, Oregon. So we make it to Grants Pass. I go, wow, it's really vibrantly green up here. It's quite amazing. And then we get to the Willamette Valley, which we're in, and it's called the Emerald Valley. And I go, whoa, it's like radiant green. It's like amazing. Well, that's all this rain and beautiful air and fertile soils, and we have the Emerald Valley. We're in it. It's an amazing place. concerning offerings, this little piece I came across I really enjoy. When I was writing this talk this morning early, very early, it was raining real heavy, and somehow water kept creeping into my talk, unintentionally, but I'm a big water fan. I jump in rivers and creeks and so forth and so on, and I'm a devotee of water. The Venerable Thubten Chandra, abbess of Shravasti Abbey, that's in eastern Washington, and she's a Vajrayana tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. She's American and a student of the Dalai Lama. So I'd like to visit the monastery there in eastern Washington. So, on offering 8 bowls of water. 1, your ethics will be pure because the water you offer is cool. 2, because the water is delicious, you will come to enjoy delicious food. 3, the lightness of the water indicates that your mind and body will become fit. 4, the water's softness results in a gentle mind stream. 5, a clear mind results from the water's clearness. 6, its being free of a bad smell will purify your karmic obstructions. 7, because the water does not hurt the stomach, your body will be free of illness. 8, its being easy on the throat indicates you will come to have pleasant speech. That's quite lovely. And we use water every day. Aren't we lucky? And it comes from the Mackenzie River, which comes from Clear Lake. Mackenzie River flows into the Willamette River. The Willamette River goes to Portland, flows into the Columbia. Columbia goes to the ocean. So for all you water people. And in Varanasi, India, the most sacred of Vedic culture cities, if you were going to die, that's where you would ideally be cremated. The river there, the Ganga River, Ganges, is considered quite sacred. And people come there and they submerge in it with all their clothes, their rituals. Quite lovely. And so, we can do that right here at the Willamette. The holy waters. H2O, do we have a scientific symbol? That has its place. Rather limited. So we have a meal chant at lunch, and it includes water. It says, the water with which we wash our bowls tastes like ambrosia. We offer it to the many spirits. May they be satisfied. So more water, more spirits. We're always invoking this very, lightness of being with water. And my hometown is named Waterbury, Waterbury, Connecticut. And there's a beautiful river that flows through. So when I saw the river in Eugene, I go, I'm right at home. Runs right through town. It's gorgeous. Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisva. So if there are any insights, inspirations, questions, favorite flowers, please. I know June has favorite flowers. She's a gardener.
Well, I've been thinking as you were talking of part of how I was able to stay here, settle here with the rivers. You know, we have the confluence of the Mackenzie and the Willamette. Right? The Mackenzie is, what could I say about it? It is the ultimately magic river, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure most people here, if you haven't seen the headwaters, then you should go to Clear Lake and rent a rowboat. If you don't want to hike 5 miles around, which is a great hike, to hike around the lake, that's Clear Lake. And if you go to a certain corner, it's almost navy blue water coming out of the spring there. And that's, all of that, I don't know if this is apropos to what we're discussing this morning, but this, as far as I'm concerned, as sacred, as spiritual as it gets. Well, maybe other places in those mountains. But that water is almost navy blue when it comes right out. It's very, and of course it becomes this incredible teal color, and the lake and parts of the Mackenzie are that color.
Yeah.
And if you go over to the left, you can see the kind of petrified forest that's in the water, because this was all volcanic, and that whole thing dropped. So you have actually, in the lake bed, the former forest. There are trees down there. And that just goes on and on. You can, there's the Mackenzie River Trail. So I don't know, but we drink the Mackenzie River. That's our water. Actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of that. So it's not. It's marvelous to think all of the water spirits being carried here into the valley by these rivers. Well, we can hope so.
Yeah.
And would you say that when we talk about spirits, we're talking about mostly the unseen?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, that's my experience and feeling and you know, relationship with that.
And right. Well, thank you.
You said Mackenzie River Trail?
Pardon me?
Mackenzie River Trail?
Right.
I'm going to take my dad to see it, so.
Right, it parallels. You can look easily online and see where it begins, but it goes, it is by the river.
Right on, okay, cool.
And I'm not sure you can pick it up at Clear Lake, but you can pick it up much lower, like Mackenzie, the store around there. You need to look and see the exact beginning, which I'm not sure exactly where it begins. People also do mountain bike that trail.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. That is a special place. We'll do a hike there soon.
Well, I can't run fast, you know.
It's okay.
It has to be slow.
We'll get you up there.
You fly.
Pardon me?
You fly. You fly.
She flies.
Fly.
Okay.
I would like to, but no, I haven't yet.
But you might.
Well, anything's possible, right?
Nice.
Just fall upwards.
There you go.
Kogen,
Hi.
can you speak a little bit to, I don't have a clear formulation of this question yet, so we'll see what comes out, but something about, so we're making a spirits altar, and something about that relationship of making offerings to personalities, to persons, whether they are the white serpent person or whether they are, Thich Nhat Hanh person, human person. That definition, that umbrella definition of persons as individual beings with whom we can have profound encounters with, versus the way that we might revere something but not necessarily revere it through the channel of a personality, like revering water, in the ways that sometimes that's related to like personification, but I don't like that word because it makes it seem like we're creating a person. That's not the stance that I actually believe in. I believe that we encounter them. Does that question make any sense to you? And
No.
No. Okay.
But no, I mean, I appreciate it. Just keep, unfold it. It's fine. Yeah. No, it's good.
Like okay, I'll back up. When you say that you are a devotee of water, I really love that. In that devotion, does that devotion have something to do with persons, beings, spirits that you encounter through the water, or does that devotion look more like not encountering a person but encountering water?
Yeah, I wouldn't put a human. I don't put a human image on water.
Yeah.
Water is multifaceted because you got snow,
Yeah.
you got ice, you got frost, you've got rivers and creeks, you've got the water when you turn on the tap, and then there's the hydrological cycle of the whole planet, which is the magnificent, complex, right?
Yeah.
Dance of water that fuels life. So I just honor that whole energy and spirit without necessarily putting a particular image on it, but it's life force. Yeah, and so the spirit altar out here, which Hojo-san will dedicate it, and he'll talk extensively about it because that's an old practice. Like in many cultures, the spirits, you honor your ancestors. That's kind of lost, right? But in Japan, they still do that, in China, and I'm sure in Africa and different places. You're honoring your ancestors because you're standing on their shoulders. That's how you got here. That's and so there's that element of appreciation, and then there's invisible forces and all sorts of energies, that we're acknowledging that we don't quite see or understand. Nevertheless, life is sustained. So.
Thank you.
Joanne might be interested in looking into animism. I've been recently kind of researching that, and I feel like that kind of aligns with honoring nature, but not necessarily putting a personification on it, but still feeling almost a spirit similar to when you encounter a person.
Right. Well, I mean, as humans, we are composed of all these elements, that we are the earth and all those forces. You have evolved out of that and are sustained by it. So it's not a distant, abstract, water, fire, earth, air. That's us.
Okay.
Right?
Is there a right way to make a shrine or altar?
Oh, the way you feel. Listen to your heart. There's specifics in. It's a good question because there's very much specifics in different traditions, and that's nice, and one could explore that. But then you can say, well, I want to make an altar, and I'm going to put, this and this. My grandmother liked this, and and then you do that, and that's fine. Why not? So explore. Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can say anything about the way that you relate spiritually, so to speak, to wood that you work with. Like if you have sort of a...
Do we have a few weeks?
I know, that's
Woo. Yeah. Wood is, amazing, of course. I'm a devotee of water, but I'm also a devotee of trees. And then I like to work with the bodies of trees, which is wood. And wood is something where when you interact with it, it responds. It's really alive. And so many people just they don't work with wood or anything, but they feel comfortable around something made of wood. It has a certain magical quality to it. And then if you start working with it, it's a lot of fun. And it's like, just dive in and, you work with wood out here, take it apart, putting them back together. So for me, it's just an endless exploration of this magical material. And I'm just going to keep doing it. like an angel. I consider trees and wood angels. So I just hang out with them.
Is there a certain practice or prayer or offering for when natural disasters are happening? I'm thinking like during fire season or when there's flooding. How can we approach that?
Well, that's a good question because that's just natural. It's interesting, natural disaster. There's one thing when it's human created, we have a real hard time with that, understandably. But natural, well, it's nature. It's not fun, but you know, the forest is burning, and so it's a powerful force that we're part of. And so I actually have a little prayer I do every morning for natural disasters as part of my little ritual thing. It's just very simple, but you can just make one up. I don't have a specific one, but it's a dynamic force that's, you know, it was a hurricane or a tornado or a tidal wave, and it's just like, there's a certain, to me there's a great beauty in it. I don't want to see anybody hurt in any way or something destroyed, but there's amazing beauty in this force field that we can't really do much about. And so that's, you know, part of living on this planet. So I say honor nature as best we can in our, you know, everyday lives, and if there's a problem with a natural disaster, help other people. You know, do the best we can and roll with it.
So we do have our natural disaster averting Durrani
Oh,
that we
yeah.
chant
That's right.
twice in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if everybody knows about that.
Durrani, for those not familiar, that's more like a kind of a magical incantation where the words don't necessarily have a specific meaning, but it's the sound vibration. It's Durrani, and so we chant Durranis here often. Actually, when I ended my talk, Gate Gate, that's a Durrani, and so yeah, as Diko said, we do address that because it's such a prominent and constant force all over the planet, you know, that we're working with that energy and acknowledging it. Thank you. You can get the book and read one if you like.
Kogen?
Hey.
One of the things I think about, I've thought about for years and years, I think we've talked about it in the past, in terms of a spirit altar here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so glad that's happening. But in some way, within the statements or statement or however it's done, from my perspective, we need to honor the people that were here before us.
The indigenous,
Kalapua.
yeah, for sure,
And that needs to somehow,
Mm.
from my perspective, be in that dedication.
Yeah.
And and Ajo at one time was wondering if we could find out any language within that culture for earth spirits.
I see.
And I've tried a little bit.
Oh.
I haven't succeeded to find that language. But I think from my, you know, it just seems that is not complete if we don't do that.
Yeah,
If we don't acknowledge
yeah.
the land we're on
Mm-hmm.
and what happened, and the people that were, I think, the original people here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
that's
that's a
primarily the Kalapua.
very good point. Perhaps
So,
the little natural history museum at the U of O.
Yes.
They've got
they have
you've
a
probably been in
whole,
they've got a little bit of this and that from the indigenous people.
They do. Well, they
So-
have a whole display, or they did,
Yeah,
about the Kalapua.
that's right. So maybe we could research it and find something.
Okay, okay.
But thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
And on that point, as far as indigenous people goes, everyone in this room is from a culture that was indigenous.
Of course, of
It
course.
may go back, you might have to go back 1,500 years, you know what I mean? But we all have roots.
Right.
But that's very nice you brought that up because you want to acknowledge the
Right.
people that were here
Right,
for whatever, 10,000 years.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. We'll do it.
okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah. On that note,